So I think it's a very discouraging scene because now we have the president's proposal. Well, race to the top, I could give you 10 minutes on that. It's terrible. It actually goes farther than Bush. It goes farther because it says, here's $5 billion at a time when every school district is in terrible trouble, every state is in a deficit situation, and they dangle $5 billion and say, in order to get the $5 billion, you must remove any limits on your charter schools. And you must agree to have a data system where every teacher can be judged by test scores. These are bad ideas, and they're using $5 billion. And who do they put in charge of the $5 billion? A woman whose previous job was CEO of the New Schools Venture Fund, funded by the Gates Foundation, the Broad Foundation, and its sole purpose is to create charter schools. And that's who's running the Race to the Top fund. Then you have the proposal for the reauthorization of No Child Left Behind. Of course, they'll get rid of the name. That's easy. They'll get rid of 2014. That's easy because, hey, it's 2010, and we're not close to 100% proficiency. So what they're proposing now is the bottom 5, they're going to leave alone the suburban schools and the kind of middle-class schools. They're now off the chopping block. But on the chopping block are the bottom 5%. This is 5,000 schools that will have the most draconian penalties that were in No Child Left Behind. Now it'll be addressed to schools that enroll overwhelmingly children of color, children with special needs, immigrant children. Those schools will be targeted for closure, for having the entire staff fired, and they think that'll make them better. Where will they get 5,000 new principals? Where will they get hundreds of thousands of new teachers? They won't. Did it work in Chicago? Well, in Chicago, which is apparently their model, Duncan and Mayor Daley created something called Renaissance 2010. And they closed lots of schools with Gates money. They opened lots of new schools. And the evaluations by the Chicago Consortium on Policy Research said didn't make any difference. Closing schools, opening schools did not improve education for the kids who were in these closed schools. And guess what? Renaissance 2010. It's 2010. Has Chicago had a renaissance? No, it has not had a renaissance. Nothing changed. It's still at the bottom. And this is the model that they're working with. Close schools, punish teachers, punish, punish, punish. Education is not a punitive profession. Education, like social work, is a helping profession. People become educators because they want to help children grow and develop their potential. And we don't send kids to the corner wearing a dunce cap. We don't humiliate people, but we are going to use the federal law to humiliate and punish and stigmatize schools and educators. And this will not help children. So I've been using whatever public voice I have to speak out against this, to try to encourage Duncan and Obama to get all the penalties. I mean, the best way to fix this federal law, and I think it may be too far gone to fix it, but the best fix would be to remove all penalties, all punishments. Just say we turn to the federal government right now for a few things. One is all the districts are in terrible trouble. The cuts that are going to be leveled across this country are going to be massive. New Jersey just announced some the other day, draconian cuts. This is not a time to be saying that we're going to ratchet up everything. We want higher and higher test scores than ever before. People are going to lose their jobs by the tens of thousands, and maybe even more than that. The federal government should extend the stimulus. It should help schools overcome this terrible period that we're going through. Our schools will be devastated by these cuts. It's funny because some of my colleagues or peers in think tanks in Washington say the cuts are actually good for schools. It will help them learn to use their money more efficiently. They might even turn to the internet and get rid of the teachers, so this would be a good thing. I think it's going to be a terrible thing, and I think this is a point where we really do need the federal government to step up its aid to the schools, and also to step up to this responsibility that has been the federal responsibility since 1965, and that is the equity agenda. Now, I'll just leave you with one thought, and then I apologize for having to leave, because the reason I'm leaving is because I was a last-minute fill-in for Pedro, and I was contacted a few days ago, and I said the only way I can be here is if I can leave early because I have a commitment in Brooklyn. But what was my train of thought? What?
Your last thought.
My last thought. My last thought is that this is my last thought. It's about the Democratic agenda and the Republican agenda, and you got to keep this in mind. And Lois may or may not agree with me about this. Since 1965, the Democratic Party has had an agenda that consisted of two words, equity and professionalism. I don't think they went far enough with the professionalism agenda. I would go even farther. But with the equity agenda, it was very clear that the Democratic Party believed in funding districts that had the greatest needs, funding districts that had the greatest number of children who were in poverty. The Republican agenda, because of the Republicans' closeness to the business community, was accountability and choice. Now we're in a period where the Democratic agenda, announced by the President, is accountability and choice. And my question is, where did the Democratic agenda go? Where did it get lost? It's not there anymore. They're trying to kind of say, well, we still do that too, but our reform agenda is accountability and choice, and it sure looks a lot like NCLB to me. Thanks so much.